90% of people would run the second they hear it move. That's exactly how you die. Here's what actually keeps you alive inside a New York subway tunnel with a Titanoboa. If you've never heard of a Titanoboa, you need to stop and think about this for a second. It was the largest snake that ever existed on this planet. Roughly 13 meters long, weighing over 1,100 kilograms, and wide enough to completely fill a subway tunnel. It went extinct about 60 million years ago, but for the next 18 minutes it hasn't. And you are standing inside a dark tunnel beneath Manhattan, and it is somewhere in the dark ahead of you. This is a hypothetical survival scenario, but every single piece of advice in this video is based on real biology, real snake behavior, and real subway infrastructure. If you enjoy thinking through situations like this, I hit subscribe right now. We do this every week, and the scenarios only get wilder. Let's set the scene. It's a Tuesday evening. You're heading home after work on the F train. The subway car lurches, the lights flicker twice, and then total darkness. An announcement crackles. There is a signal problem ahead. Please remain in your car. You hear murmuring from other passengers. Normal so far. This happens all the time in New York. But then you hear something else. It starts as a vibration, not a sound exactly, more like a pressure you feel in your chest. Then a low, rhythmic dragging from outside the car. Something enormous is moving through the tunnel. The other passengers hear it too. Someone opens the emergency door between cars and steps out onto the tracks to see what's going on. They don't come back. The dragging sound gets louder, closer, and then the emergency lights flicker on, just enough to see the shape pressing against the side windows of the subway car. Something massive, something alive. You have maybe 90 seconds before it reaches your car. What do you do? Before we talk about escape, you have to understand what you're actually dealing with, because almost every instinct you have right now is wrong. The Titanoboa was not a fast predator. It didn't chase prey like a cheetah. It was an ambush hunter. It coiled, compressed, and squeezed. In its natural environment, it hunted crocodiles and large fish. It moved slowly but with overwhelming strength. In a confined, straight tunnel, it doesn't need speed. The tunnel does the work. There is nowhere for you to go except toward it or away from it. And if it's behind you, and those are the same direction. Here is what makes this predator uniquely terrifying in a subway environment. It doesn't need to see you. Modern boas and pythons have heat-sensing pit organs, small receptors along their jaw that detect infrared radiation, meaning body heat. In a completely dark tunnel, in a cold underground environment, you are the warmest thing in existence. You are a glowing, walking target. Every breath, every heartbeat, every patch of exposed skin is broadcasting your location. You cannot hide by turning off your phone flashlight. You cannot hide by standing still. Your body heat is screaming. This is why running is such a dangerous instinct. When you run, you increase your body temperature. You exhale warm air in larger bursts. Well, you create vibration in the ground, and snakes are extraordinarily sensitive to ground vibration. Running tells the Titanoboa three things simultaneously: where you are, how fast you're moving, and which direction you're going. So if you can't run, what do you do? The first thing you need to do is think in terms of the tunnel's geometry. A New York City subway tunnel is roughly 4.5 to 5 meters wide and about 4 meters tall. A Titanoboa at full width would fill most of that horizontal space when coiled. But, and this is critical, it cannot fill vertical space the same way. The snake's body mass means it sits low. Maintenance catwalks run along the upper walls of many New York subway tunnels, positioned for workers to move through during service. These are typically about 1.5 to 2 meters off the ground, as bolted directly to the tunnel wall. If you can reach one and move along it, you are placing yourself physically outside the primary range of the snake's heat-sensitive organs, which are concentrated in the lower jaw and oriented forward and downward. You are not safe, but you have moved from certain death to a fighting chance. The second thing you need to understand is compression and coiling. The Titanoboa kills by constriction. It wraps its body around prey and squeezes, preventing the lungs from expanding. If it catches you in open space, it only needs to get one coil around you, and the fight is over immediately. There is no escaping the grip of an animal that can crush a crocodile. Your objective is never to be within reach of a coil in the first place. Distance is survival. But here is where the subway environment gives you a genuine advantage. something most people wouldn't think about. Subway tunnels have vertical columns and support structures at regular intervals. These are load-bearing pillars, junction boxes, signal equipment, and in older sections of the system, decorative ceramic tile walls with recessed alcoves. These create gaps and angles that a 13-meter snake physically cannot navigate the way a human body can. A snake of this size has a minimum turning radius. It cannot make sharp 90-degree turns efficiently. You can. Every corner you put between yourself and the Titanoboa buys you time. The older sections of the New York subway, the original IRT lines built in the early 1900s, have the most irregular geometry. The City Hall Station Loop, the 86th Street Express platforms, sections under the East River. These are the areas where you want to be. Modern streamlined tunnels are your enemy. They are designed for efficiency, and efficiency here means straight lines. Straight lines favor the snake. Let's talk about the other passengers. This is where the scenario gets psychologically brutal. Group behavior in a panic is one of the most studied phenomena in emergency psychology. When people are terrified and lack information, they herd. They cluster together and move as one, following the loudest or most confident voice. In a subway car full of panicked passengers, someone will make the decision to open the emergency exit and try to run as a group. Do not follow that group. This is one of the hardest survival decisions you can make, because every social instinct tells you to stay with other people. But a group of 30 panicked humans in a dark tunnel is creating an enormous concentration of body heat, vibration, and noise. To the Titanoboa, a group is not more threatening. It's simply a larger, easier to locate target. Groups also move unpredictably in panic, and unpredictable movement in a confined space often results in the slowest members being cut off. If you separate from the group and move quietly, deliberately along the wall, you are a single, smaller, calmer heat signature. You are giving the predator less information to work with. There's another element that survival experts call thermal discipline, the deliberate reduction of your heat signature. In practice, this means removing a jacket or outer layer and placing it over your head and shoulders like a crude thermal blanket. It won't eliminate your heat signature, but it can reduce the gradient enough to make you less distinct against the background. In a tunnel where the walls are also cool, you want to reduce the contrast between yourself and the environment. Move slowly, low to the ground along the wall, one hand touching the tile for orientation. No phone light. The warm glow of a screen actually radiates heat as well as light. Feel for the catwalk access rungs, which are usually bolted directly into the wall at intervals. Let's talk about sound. The Titanoboa cannot hear in the way you hear. Snakes have no external ears. They detect sound primarily as vibration through the ground. High-frequency airborne sounds, like screaming, travel through air, not primarily through the ground, and are less useful to the snake than ground vibration. When this means something counterintuitive, in a truly desperate moment, a loud, sharp noise might not panic the animal, but jumping, stamping, or any hard ground contact is essentially a flare. Walk on the balls of your feet. Never let your heel hit the concrete first. This is not about being quiet to human ears. It is about reducing ground vibration, which is the primary sensory channel the snake is using to track you. Now let's talk about the moment most people don't prepare for. What happens if the snake is already between you and the exit? You have three options, and only one of them works. Option 1 is confrontation. You do not confront a 1,100 kilogram predator. Even if you had a weapon, a metal bar, a fire extinguisher, anything available in a subway car, striking the snake achieves almost nothing except drawing attention to your location. Scales that evolved to protect against crocodile bites are not going to be compromised by a fire extinguisher to the head. Remove this option from your thinking entirely. Option 2 is waiting it out. This is actually not as irrational as it sounds. The Titanoboa was an ectotherm, cold-blooded. In the subway environment, which is relatively cool and where the snake is generating enormous body heat through movement, it will eventually slow down. Metabolic rate in large reptiles drops significantly in cooler temperatures. If you are completely stationary, thermally reduced, and positioned in a vertical recess off the ground level, you might outlast its active hunting phase. However, this assumes you have time, which in a signal failure situation you may not. Option 3, and this is the only real answer, is lateral movement through tunnel branching. New York's subway system is one of the most complex underground networks in the world. Every 500 to 800 meters on most lines, there are crossover points, places where the tunnel branches or merges with another line. There are also service tunnels, emergency exit passages, and ventilation shafts at regular intervals. A 13-meter snake cannot enter a ventilation shaft. It cannot make the sharp turn required to follow you through a crossover junction at speed. Your objective is not to reach a station. Your objective is to reach a branch point or side passage. Any geometry that the Titanoboa's body mass cannot navigate. You are not outrunning it. One, you are outmaneuvering it by using the complexity of the infrastructure against its size. The ventilation shafts in New York subway are typically between 1 and 1.5 meters in diameter. Small enough that a human adult must crawl, but completely inaccessible to a 1,100 kilogram animal. These shafts always connect upward to street-level grates. They are your exit strategy. Finding one in the dark, under stress, is the challenge. Ventilation shafts are usually accompanied by a distinct airflow, even a gentle movement of air against your face or hands, and a faint metallic sound when trains are running on parallel lines. In the absence of active trains, a ventilation shaft will still have air movement if the fans are operational. Run your hands slowly along the wall. Feel for airflow. This is your navigation tool. Wow, this brings us to the final and perhaps most important survival principle for this scenario: information management under stress. When your brain detects mortal danger, it initiates the fight or flight response. Cortisol and adrenaline flood your system. Your heart rate spikes, your visual field narrows, your fine motor skills degrade, and critically, your ability to process complex information drops dramatically. This is why people make catastrophically bad decisions in emergencies, not because they're unintelligent, but because their brain has shifted to a mode optimized for immediate physical action, not strategic thinking. The only way to counteract this is prior knowledge. If you already know, right now, sitting wherever you are watching this, out of that, ventilation shafts have airflow and are marked at regular intervals, that a Titanoboa moves slowly but detects heat, that the catwalk is on the upper wall, that lateral branching points are your exit strategy, then in the moment of crisis, you are not solving problems. You are executing a plan you already have. That's the entire premise of survival thinking. It's not about being brave. It's about having already thought through the scenario before you're in it. Most of the people in that subway car died tonight, not because they weren't fast enough, or strong enough, or brave enough. They died because they ran when they should have slowed down. They made noise when they should have been silent, and they followed the group when they should have broken away and thought independently. You now know 3 things that would save your life in this exact scenario. The catwalk gives you vertical advantage, the ventilation shaft gives you an exit, the snake cannot follow, and your thermal signature is your biggest vulnerability. Manage it deliberately. Drop a comment below. Would you have run, or are you the person who would have remembered the catwalk? I genuinely want to know how you would have played this. The most interesting answers always come from the people who've thought about this stuff before. If this kind of scenario gets your brain working the same way mine does, subscribe. Every week we take a different impossible situation, a volcano, a deep-sea pressure failure, a collapsed mine shaft, and we run through it with the same level of detail, not to scare you, to prepare you. Because the difference between surviving and not surviving is almost never about physical ability. It's almost always about what you already know before the lights go out.